Kevin Kelley's here tonight, and he's seen the skill of the Prince and the strength and the ability and the accuracy and the speed. Oh gosh.
Hello, welcome to episode 3 of Last Bell Boxing Rewind series. We're having great fun with this, boys. It's the same panel as we've had for all the other shows so far. So all the way from sunny Worksop. Daz, how are you, pal?
All right, mate.
I'm guessing it's a bit more sunny in Canada, or maybe not. How are you, Brett?
Doing well. It's cold in some parts. We're up to minus 39, but just I suppose it's sunny for me because it's only minus 5 right now.
And I'm complaining we've got 1 degree in the UK. Sean, is it any warmer down in Brighton, mate?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it though, but yeah, it is fortunately.
Right. That's all the pleasantries out of the way, boys. Let's get down to business. Now we've done a couple of great episodes so far. Ben Eubank 1, Ben Eubank 2. There was no other place to go, and this one's thanks to Brett. This was Brett's idea. There's no other place to go than the Prince himself, Naseem Hamed. What can you say about Prince Naseem Hamed? I'm going to get some insider knowledge on this one from Daz. So as we're going through the show, Daz was in the Winkerbank gym quite a bit in his past. So he'll have a lot of stories from other people about Naz, I'm absolutely certain. So we'll get into that in a little bit. As always with these boys, we'll do a little bit of background on the two fighters, how they got to the point of this epic, I'm going to call it a shootout, because I think that's all it was. This epic shootout on December the 19th, 1997 at Madison Square Garden. It was the introduction to the States for Prince Naseem Hamed. Kevin Kelley was an absolute warrior at the time. He'd got much more experience than Naz, but we'll come to that in a second. So we're going to go right the way back, boys, to Naseem's already had 19 fights. He's had 17 knockouts. He's been knocking people out for fun. Absolute entertainer. Dynamite power one-punch knockout in both hands. Can knock people out from pretty much any angle he wants to. And he gets a shot at Steve Robertson's WBO featherweight title over in Cardiff. This was a step up for Naz. He demolishes Robinson in 8 rounds. He then goes on a bit of a run of 8 defences, stopping almost all of the fighters in his path. In his second defence, though, he has a little bit of a scare, Daz. Gets put down for the first time in his career. Asked a few questions, that, didn't it?
It did. It were Daniel Alisera, I believe.
It was?
Yeah. Mate, to be honest, when it happened, never in his career, mate, did I ever doubt that he'd get up.
Yeah.
The kid's chin was unbelievable. He did things wrong, but he did a lot of things right as well. I was never in any worry that he would get up. I've seen him hit on chin off some big guys, and he always ended up on top. It was just a phenomenon, to be fair.
It was a decent shot from Alisson, but as often we found later on in his career when he got put down, it was more often than not that he was slightly off balance when he got hit.
Yeah, I think a lot of things with Naz as well. We'll come to. I've got a bit of a theory. I might be wrong, but most of the punches that caused Naz to get knocked down, he rode. He was taking a lot of the sting out of him. Yeah. But there's a couple, and that he wasn't. That he nearly got. I mean, one he nearly got decapitated, but still got up fine. And these two was in the Kelley fight. But every other he took the sting out of him for me. But he had a great chin. He had it all. He had it all. And a lot of people today say he underachieved.
We'll come to that. We'll talk about whether we think that's the case after we've gone through the fight. I have a little bit of a theory following this fight. about Naz, and I think you guys might disagree with it, but it's a theory anyway. I know, Brett, you're a massive fan. Tell us, I mean, was Naz your first boxing hero?
To be honest, mate, I remember being very small, and as it was back in the day, being in the boozer with a panda pop, sat in the corner watching with my dad watching Frank Bruno on one of his nights. To be honest, I can't remember what night it was, but Frank had a big night. It was early on in the 90s, very early on. And so that was my first look into it. But then obviously I went through the era of what we're following right now, and they were all Ben was my idol, and yeah, I would say, mate, my first absolutely obsessed, wanted to follow him around the world, and was even in his fan club as a younger lad, trying to win his Porsche. I remember he had a competition where he had his Porsche, and he was going to give it away to one of his fans. It had Naz 1 on the number plate.
It did,
yeah.
You didn't buy record he released.
No, I didn't, mate. I didn't. But yeah, not to take up too much time, I was just, he definitely opened my eyes for the love of the sport. And at the time, as we know, as the British public is, it's become more accepting of characters now. But back then, look how they love and hated Eubank. They absolutely love and hated Naz. And I would imagine in that first round when Kelley's dropped him at 4 o'clock in the morning, there was a few people that were up off their chair cheering it. So obviously we'll get to it, and I'll talk a little bit about. Obviously, we've all got our opinions on Naz and what he did for the sport. But yeah, I vividly remember this fight.
Sean, Naz definitely divided the country. He was a real maverick. But whether you hated him or you loved him, whether you wanted him to win every fight or whether you wanted to see him get knocked out, everybody tuned in, right?
Yeah, and that's what's so good about boxing, I think. I mean, it would be boring if everyone all had the same opinion and said all the same things, wouldn't it? So we certainly need characters in the sport. And thankfully, Naz brought all the characters, colour and charisma to boxing in the 90s.
I think it's fair to say, lads, that Kevin Kelley was stalking Naz a little bit. He came over to the UK a couple of times, tried to make the fight happen, and it didn't happen originally. He then came over when Naz had his 8th defence against
Jose
Badillo.
Yeah, Badillo.
Very comfortable performance from Naz. He was in autopilot, showing off to the crowd. It was in Sheffield. He was wanting to put a show on. He was showing off to the crowd. Probably a little bit too much. Maybe doing it because Kelley was there as well. But this is one of the vivid memories for me from watching boxing in the 90s. Is them both sat on the apron. Naz with his arm around Kelley, basically taunting him. I mean, Kelley kept his cool, to be fair, but that little clip there tells you all you need to know about Naz, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you a little quick when I first met him. My cousin, I was getting bullied at school, so. My cousins and my uncle and that were boxers, but they could see that I was probably I was going to turn into a bit of a bully and pick on people, smaller than me, sort of thing. So they took me, my cousin Steve, and he's no longer with us now, but he took me to Brendan Ingalls, and he used to train there himself. So anyway, I was talking to Brendan. We are Stephen, and I've giving it the front, and no one wants to accept that they're getting bullied, do they? You know what I mean? So anyway, I think I were about 13, 14. Anyway, Brendan said something to me along the lines, "Oh, do you think you can fight? I know I can fight," and all this. And he says, "Oh, do you want to get in ring and do a bit of sparring?" I went, "Yeah, we." All right. He said, "Well, he's in ring already." So anyway, there's this tiniest lad. I mean, he was, I think, about 3 years older than me. So anyway, I've got in.
And Brendan loved that type of stuff, didn't he, as well?
Oh, he
loved it.
Oh, you want me to spar with him? I said, I want to knock him all over. Besides him, mate, welcome to boxing, Dad. I couldn't hit him. He was pulling faces at me. Punching me on the nose, punching me in the body. I got that wound up. I tried to kick him. literally proper tried to kick him and all, are in tears through rage. Got out ring, walked out, and I went, fuck this boxing, excuse my language. I got outside and I'm leant on wall like this. And I'm like, and then it hit me. I thought, I want to be able to do that. So I walked back in, said I was sorry. And I'll never forget these words. Brendan said, walking back in here after how you walked out is one of the bravest things you'll ever do in your life. And that can map the rest of your life. Listen, as we went on, I never had the dedication and everything, but listen, things that he said to me stuck with me. I wasn't in gym a lot as I should have been. I drifted from here to there and all that. But the odd times I were around everyone in that gym, it were brilliant. And I'll never forget that first day I met Naz when he absolutely whipped me.
Right, let's get back to the fight. I love these stories. Let's get back to the fight. Talk a little bit about Kelley. So, correct me if I'm wrong here, boys. Kevin Kelley's by far the toughest opponent of Naz's career, and he's taking a big chance here going over to the States on his debut to fight what was then a 2-time world champion. Kelley had been WBC featherweight champion in 1993, beating Giorgio Vegas, I think. He was also WBU champion, as then it was, in 1996.
I don't know if he won that, mate, to be fair.
Oh, did he not?
No, I'm not sure. I know they're a bit. He might have done because there are a lot fragmented with titles because not a lot of people realize as well that he actually fought Barrera for IBO title.
Yeah,
the IBO was on the Barrera fight, and he defended the WBO against Augie Sanchez, but he won the WBC as well against Cesar Soto. I know there are a lot of politics then, where you got to defend against him, but the bigger fights, obviously, and they stripped him. But he won. I think he won everything, won every world title in the division, but I don't think he held them at the same time.
Right.
It were quite. I think it was. Listen, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he won them all, but didn't. I know he beat Tom Johnson for IBF, Wilfredo Vasquez for WBA, Cesar Soto for the WBC, and obviously he held the WBO from Steve Robinson, but I think some got took off him. So he never actually had them all at the same time.
Oh, no, sorry. I wasn't talking about Naz. I was talking about Kelley.
Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So
yeah, you're probably right, yeah.
Kelley was WBC champion, and then in '96 he won the WBU version against Louis Espinoza.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I thought you were.
No. It's okay. It's okay. I perhaps confused you there. Anyway, moving on to the build-up. This was a massive thing for Frank Warren. Massive thing for the stable. They made a massive deal of Naz over in the States, didn't they? They put a lot into that build-up. He goes over and he trains in what just looked like a sports hall originally, the first gym he goes into, and he's not happy about it, Daz. I don't know if you've seen the documentary, but he's not happy about it, and he's not training properly. Him and Brendan look like there might be a bit of an issue going on.
Yeah, I think that's where the cracks started to appear.
Yeah.
If you watch the fight and you see the corner work, I mean, listen, it's immaculate corner work from Brendan as always, but Naz just looks at him and says, "Yeah, don't worry," Yeah. And if you look at Naz's earlier fights with Brendan, he's just tuned into what Brendan's saying. So,
partway through this camp, I don't know if you're aware of this, Brett. Partway through this camp, Brendan leaves America. Goes back to England because he's got another fighter having a world title in December at the same time, almost the same time. Ryan Rhodes, he's fighting for the WBO middleweight title on the 13th of December. So he has to go back to England midway through Naz's camp. Naz moves to another gym, looks a bit more rowdy, a bit more his scene. You know, he gets his chance to show off in sparring and all that. And Brendan's back home in sunny Sheffield, getting Ryan Rhodes ready. So from the 13th of December, he's then got 6 days to get back to the States and get Naz ready. Not ideal preparations, is it?
No, but you know, Daz will tell you being around it that stable was close, wasn't it? You've got Rhodes, you've got Johnny Nelson. They all went on the road together. You know, if the cracks were already starting around that time, ordinarily it's Naz's obviously biggest fight. But Brendan would have not left him unless he'd have been happy with the people that he'd left him with. So you would think that he was just going back to take care of one of the stable mates. And in terms of, obviously we're going to get chomping into this in a minute, but you're right. Just quickly talking about the promotion leading up, the amount of investment from Frank, and to the point of they did this thing when they were walking around the streets of asking people, random New Yorkers, if they knew him, and they were, a majority of them said, yeah, it's this cocky kid from the UK and stuff like that. So it was genius promotional work, as you saw when he. We'll talk about the ring walk, I suppose, in a minute. But the booze, he divided. The Americans weren't having him at first, but I'm pretty sure at the end of the fight they were having him.
Absolutely, mate. Right, let's get into it. Fight night, Madison Square Garden, the world famous Madison Square Garden. Still my favourite boxing venue around the world, and still should be hailed as the home of boxing, in my opinion. December the 19th, 1997. There's a big deal made of from Kevin Kelley. He gets into the ring really quickly, and there's a massive wait. He's getting really upset in the ring. Naz is playing about. I think it took him from his music first starting, Naz, it took 5 minutes before he actually got to the ring, which obviously wound Kelley up, and that's Naz all over, right?
Seven, Andy. And Larry Merchant was playing hell in the commentary as well.
But that's Naz all over, right?
Yeah.
So let's get to it then, lads. Star-studded people around the ring. You know when a massive fight's happening in America, when you get all the famous people there, all the actors, all the famous boxers from the past, and it was ringside was covered. They all bought into this Naz hype, Naz experience, and this fight delivered on all levels. Let's get straight into it. Round one. We'll do this round by round, obviously, as everybody knows. This only went before. So round one. No messing around, lads. Sean, I'll come to you first. It comes straight out. Put it on each other. Centre of the ring, right?
Yeah, I thought Naz started very well, to be honest. He obviously took the centre of the ring, was boxing well. Then he just got caught, didn't he? It was almost a bit of a flash knockdown, I thought. He bounced straight back up. And as Daz said earlier, he showed what a good chin he's got. But up until then, I thought he was boxing quite well and started in a dominating fashion, really.
Yeah, Naz is one of them fighters that he gives a lot of opportunities for other fighters to land, but because of his skill, his speed, his reflexes, hardly anybody did. This is probably the first time in his career where people started to question, is he really as good as everyone says he is? Because in that first round, it was only a flash knockdown, like you say. He was off balance as well. He was going back, so he rode the shot like Daz was saying earlier on, and he wasn't hurt. He got straight back up. I think this was the start of what was to unfold in all the other rounds in the fight, though. I'll come to you now, Daz. Was you surprised that how easy Naz was to hit in that first round?
No, because it were just ragged. I think he just wanted to score a one-punch spectacular KO.
Right.
Naz were very frustrating for me because I tell you what, he had one of the best jabs I've ever seen when he used it. His jab was unbelievable. From either a southpaw or orthodox. When he used that jab, and he showed flashes of it in that first round. When he used that jab, it was literally unbelievable. Honestly, it was one of the best jabs I've ever seen when he used it. But you know, he sometimes would prefer to throw a right. Do you know what I mean? It's just how he was. But yeah, I mean, he started off well. Kelley, you know, Kelley were looking. I think he was looking to like land a big shot, get Naz's respect maybe. And then Naz obviously pinned him in corner towards the end of that first, and you know, his defense were non-existent. He was just concentrating on attack, and Kelley caught him and dropped him. But let's not forget as well, Kelley was a banger.
Yeah, he was.
You know, Kevin Kelley's a banger.
Right. Naz was switch hitting like he does. He was even showboating in that first round as well. Now he got caught early, and I've just said, and Daz has kind of said as well. You know, that didn't really affect him that much. That, you know, he's got a great chin. I very early on, I thought to myself, Kelley's got really good timing here, and every time Naz was doing all right when he was boxing, but every time Naz tried to throw one of his big bombs, Kelley was either countering him or throwing at the same time and beating Naz to the punch. And round 2 kind of went exactly the same way. Tell me your feelings on round 1 first before we get into the second.
Yeah. Look, Kelley. I thought Kelley's composure was fantastic. Almost, there was a couple of wild moments when he was, you know, it's probably what got him at the end of the fight that he was wild. But I thought he was quite composed throughout. I almost felt that Naz was off his game a little bit. His timing was out. But I've got a different viewpoint of that knockdown. I think it's because he's got a great chin that we view it as a flash knockdown, because he squares up in that corner and he gets it's a cracking shot.
Yeah.
And when Daz said, let's not forget Kelley was a banger, at this point he's got 47 fights, 1 loss, 2 draws, and 32 knockouts.
Yeah.
So, and he's caught. I know he's going away, and Daz made a great point about how he had this sort of thing to kind of, because he was always jumping around. Did he ever really get knocked? But his chin, he doesn't just, it isn't one of them. His chin goes. Yeah. He's landed it. And I was surprised. He made it look like a flash knockdown, but that was a cracking shot in round 1. And that's because Naz doing what he is. He's got him down. He's leaning down on him. He's squaring up because punches come, like Daz says, punches come from every angle. And then Kelley's just got whoop, off you go. So it's a great shot from Kelley. And
we go straight into round 2, and it's more of the same. Round 2 is an absolutely crazy round, by the way. So we'll get into this in a bit more in depth. Naz actually gets on his jab at the start of the second round, and you see just how good his jab is.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I mean, listen, you know, Brendan would have told him to use it, and I'm sure, and he did. I heard, you know, many times, but he just didn't use it as much as he should have done. I mean, it was an absolute thunderbolt of a jab. You'd hear him on bag sometimes throwing jab, and I'm not kidding. It was like thunderstorm. In, you know, the snap he had on it and the speed were just unbelievable. And you know, it was a brilliant tool to draw someone in. You know, he was sometimes that good. He'd take a bit of speed off it to let them come past it to walk onto something. But, you know, he neglected it far too much for me. Far too much.
Sean, we get to a point in the round where Naz tries to throw a big bomb, and Kelley times him again, like we said in the first round, with I think it's a short right hand, or was it short left hand on that first knockdown? And Naz don't go down; he touches down, and he tries to ride it and make out like he hasn't, and then he gets caught again straight after and touches down. So the ref has to count it. Are you surprised with Naz's style and the way he throws shots from all sorts of angles? Are you surprised that he didn't kind of touch down a bit more often when people caught him?
Yeah, I think so, because how off balance he was the majority of the time. So I was surprised he didn't go down a bit more. But I think that's to his testament, really, where he didn't really let it get to him. He just sort of shrugged it off and thought, well, okay, I know I'm going to get back at you. So I think that shows his character as well, that he can overcome these things quite easily.
Brett, it wasn't long into that second round where Naz landed a massive shot.
I mean, yeah, he just devastating power in both hands, and obviously, as the guys will know, being close to the people that were around him, the reason that his hands started to deteriorate later on in his career just because of how hard he could hit, and that is just timing textbook, as you like. I mean, Kelly's given him the nod, seal of approval.
Yeah.
And he's give it that, but he shocked him.
Yeah,
and that obviously, I think after that. To be fair, Kelly comes out. We'll talk about it in a second. Kelly comes out in round 3, still composed, but that changed Kelly's perspective on the fact that he can bang.
Yeah, because up to that point, he'd not felt it, no. and like you said, he was very composed, and a lot of the time in the first 2 rounds was in control.
Yeah,
you know, Naz was losing the fight, in my opinion. He lost obviously lost the first fight, first round 10-8 because of the knockdown. Obviously, you have to score the second one 9-9, Daz.
Yeah.
Yeah, you love a 9-9, don't you?
Mate. Do 2 knockdowns.
Do you know what? Do you know another big point for me in that second round is when Naz touched down and then got caught again. That's the shot I was on about. That is one of the only times I was worried that it wouldn't get up, because he was totally vulnerable, and it rolled his head round, nearly decapitated him.
You wouldn't know, though, would you? You wouldn't know.
For him, no, not at all. But yeah, like Brett says, when he landed on Kelly, and Kelly like sort of thought, yeah, he does it hard, and
do you think with that little naughty shot where he rolled him into the corner, and then Kelly, the ref was trying to stop it, and Naz banged him pretty hard.
Naz clipped
that
him.
Could have had a bit of an effect as well, because that was flush.
Yeah, to be fair to Kelly, he could have probably made more of that than he did. He didn't really make out of it. He just sort of, but fair play to Kelly. He could have probably played on that.
We're going to the third round, boys, and compared to the first 2, the third round's a bit boring. I think they both had a bit of respect because of what happened in the previous round. They both had come out with a bit more respect, and they were mainly on jabs. Kelly still staying very composed, and in my opinion, still getting the better of Naz in the exchanges. He was again timing him really, really well. Brendan reads Naz the right act when they go back to the corner at the end of the third round.
I think Brendan was actually telling him to use his jab as well.
He was telling him to use his jab, and he actually said something along the lines of, "He's had his fun. Let's get at him now."
Yeah.
And then obviously look what happened in the fourth.
Yeah.
Such respect from all of his fighters, though, Daz, because of the way he come across, right? Brendan.
Yeah. Oh, mate, man was a genius, absolute genius. He created more champions outside the ring than he did inside. Saved more young people from going down a life, wrong path, from a life of crime. Created more champions in life, as I like to say, than champions in ring. Yeah, he's an amazing man. Amazing.
Sean,
man.
Naz comes out, round 4, Naz comes out, and looked straight away like he changed his style. He planted his feet. There wasn't as much showboating. Down to business. Now, he didn't look like he was listening to Brendan in the corner, but he clearly was, because he planted his feet and he was looking to land big, dangerous shots. And he did, with a big straight, I think it was a big straight left hand that put Kelly down, that first shot that put Kelly down. And it was really all over from that point. Kelly lost his composure then, right?
Yeah, like as we touched on earlier, when he knew sort of how hard Naz can hit, I don't think he wanted any of that, given the sort of career he had and all the tough fights he had. I think he probably got to a point in that fight where he thought, well, I may as well sort of save myself for another day, and I think it was the right time to stop the fight as well.
Brett, I think Naz could taste blood after he put Kelly down then. I think he could see Kelly was and He tries to go in and finish him. He gets a bit wild and gets caught again. Gets clipped again and touches down again. He must have been kicking himself.
Yeah, that little flick there was nothing. He knew. You could see it in his eyes. He was when he got up again. He was like, "Get out of the way!" to the referee. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Like he knew. He could smell it. He's he knows when he's got somebody hurt, and you know when they're hurt is when the way Kelley landed. He didn't land like he did on the first one, giving him the nod. He landed with his hand behind his back.
Yeah.
So his senses had gone. So Naz knew it was coming, and it was pretty strange in this fight. I mean, as a Naz massive fan. These journeys, these rewinds that we're doing, making me go and watch back all my heroes again. But is why I don't think I ever seen him do that jumpy roundy thing that he kept on doing with both hands going up and down. I don't know what that was in this one. He was always elusive and putting his chin in the air and getting clipped. But that whole like up and down with his hands, it was a little bit weird from him. But it was interesting watching you say, I think it was a right hand. We don't know. We never know with him, do we? Because it's either the right hand or the left hand. They could knock him out of either hands. So beautiful finish, and it was a great stoppage. I mean, he tried to get up, but he was out. He didn't complain, did he, when the referee put his arm around him either?
No, he stumbled into the ref, didn't he? There was a shot as well from Kelley. I think it might have been in third round. I'm not overly sure. He landed a left hand, and it
was it that wild one that came over the top? It
went over the top, yeah, but it was quite short, and Naz sort of like had a bit of a wobble and then took a couple of steps off. That was a decent shot. I mean, just showed how hard Kelley could hit, to be fair.
So obviously Kelley gets up and he's trying to be brave, but then his composure's completely gone. He's throwing wild shots, and Naz just picks him off with that second shot. That puts him down and finishes the fight. I'd like your guys' take. I'll come around you one by one. I'd like your guys' take on what you took away from this fight, knowing now what had gone off prior to the fight, knowing now what Naz did going forward after this fight. I've got a theory that I don't think will go down very well. I think Kevin Kelley showed a bit of a blueprint on how to get to Naz. Timing. Because you got to be accurate with it as well, Daz. But he was having so much success when Naz was throwing those wild shots. Kelley was timing him.
I'll counter that and say you're right. But I also will say that that's Naz giving it him as well. Because how much success did Kevin Kelley have when Naz was using his jab? None. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I agree with you. You're right. He showed some vulnerabilities that people thought, I can exploit them. But for me, I don't know, mate. I think there are a lot of stuff going on outside at ring for him. I think his relationship with Brendan were deteriorating, and I just don't think he wanted to do it anymore. I mean, he got probably one of the best trainers that's ever lived in at one point, Emmanuel Stewart. He couldn't do it with him. You know, Naz got to be very... they got him and Oscar Suarez were there as well, weren't they? But, you know, I think Naz became he wanted yes men around him rather than people that were going to tell him the truth. I mean, you know, I got told that towards the end of the relationship with Brendan, he wouldn't train at the same time as everyone else. He wanted the gym to himself. And that's not what that gym were about. That gym's community. You know, he wanted things. I mean, Brendan got a bit of stick as well for coming back to corner Ryan. But if your fight is tapering down for 2 weeks,
no,
it don't matter. You know, all the hard work should have been done.
Yeah, it should have. But obviously, the way Naz was complaining about that first gym they went to when they first went over to the States, didn't look like he was even interested in warming up. for stuff. A little bit of footage I saw, anyway.
I just think Naz had completely lost the love for boxing. If I'm honest, I think he just did it, and you know the sad thing is, I mean the camp for I mean just a quick note, the camp for Barrera by all accounts were horrendous. He were getting beat up off Mexican road sweepers in sparring, and Emmanuel Stewart had to leave, and he then went into the fight with Barrera, you know, an all-time great, thinking I'll just bang him out. Performed absolutely poor and lost by about 3 or 4 rounds on scorecards. It weren't a one-sided beatdown.
I've said this many times, Daz. You know, you're absolutely spot on there. An horrendous camp, right? And he's only lost by 2-3 rounds, maybe 4, by a Hall of Famer fighter, and that was completely locked in, that wanted to kill him. So it just shows you the immense talent that he had. And I think Daz is right. I mean, I'll try not to remember him for those memories, but he'd signed out. The purses were big. The fame was too much. Probably the lifestyle had changed. He wasn't as dedicated, and losing Brendan is like Tyson losing Cuss. You know what I mean? It's that type of thing. The brilliance need the people that they can just bring them back round.
Brendan, I mean, just a little note on Brendan as well. And there's actually an interview with Dominic Ingle, Brendan's son, and he reiterates this. Brendan said once, when your fighter earns £400, you get your £40, 10%, no problem. When your fighter earns 4,000 and you get your 400, no problem. When your fighter earns 4 million, do you get your 400 grand? No. You know, and it's, you know, his point was he was there from 7-year-old with Naz. You know, he had Naz from 7. Without Brendan, there would have been no Naz for me.
Okay, you mentioned it earlier on, Daz, and we'll leave it. This will be the last thing for this episode. But I want a round robin from you guys. I'll start with you first, Sean. A lot of people have said that Naz underachieved. Hearing everything that's been said by the boys and what you've said yourself, give me your opinion as to whether you think he did or not.
Yeah, I think the simple answer is he probably did underachieve. Just because you spoke about all the talent he had, but he necessarily wasn't always the most dedicated. If he was more dedicated and took it a bit more serious, I mean, we already speak about him as a British boxing legend. Imagine the conversation we'd be having tonight if he did achieve that bit more.
Brett, I know you're a gigantic fan, mate.
Yeah.
What's your feeling?
Yeah, I think he did underachieve. To say that, you know, when you look at those shots he took in that fight where it was a shootout, to say that he knocked him down 3 times and was with different hands, to say that he could throw a shot from all different angles, to say that he was elusive and you couldn't hit him. He had everything. And I hate the people that say, look, his resume weren't that great. At the end of the day, he beat some good solid opponents at the time. Yeah, he could have made the Mayweather fight. Yeah, he could, all these fights that they say he could have made. But the bottom line is, yes, he underachieved, but he'll still go down. You know, people will still talk about him in 20, 30, 40 years' time. If you're a boxing fan, you'll still talk about Prince Naseem.
Daz, you've already told one story about Naz. Let's say your opinion of whether you think he underachieved or not. You'll get the last word on this before we bring it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, big time. I mean, there were that mouth-watering prospects at one point that he could have fought Mayweather at super featherweight, and I think even Floyd's come out and said would have been a tough fight. He could hit, you know. As a super bantamweight is where I think Naz was at his best, if I'm honest. But you know, he stepped up to featherweight and beat Steve Robinson. But as a super bantamweight, he was just phenomenal. I mean, I remember just watching him I think a WBC international champion. The kid was just unreal. And I personally think he underachieved big time.
Shame into it. He's still got, even though you've all said you think he's underachieved. I do as well. That being said, he's still going to go down in history as one of Britain's greatest for all of his antics, for his style. I mean, we're talking about a style that you walk into a gym and start acting like that, and 99.9% of trainers are going to try and beat that out of you. That goes against every boxing training manual across the world. Don't fight like that. Don't put your hands down. Don't throw shots from your knees. Everything that Naz did shouldn't work. But he was a one-off, right?
Yeah.
Absolute maverick, and a fighter that we'll never forget. I think that is a brilliant place to bring this episode to an end. We'll carry on doing these. Please leave your comments and your thoughts in the comments bar when you watch this back. Let us know another fight in the 90s you'd like us to cover, and I'm sure we'll do it. I'm loving going back and watching these. Boys, as always, thanks for your time, and I'll see you on the next one.